So we can build people to learn our systems. I think we can be able to get the business for project managers that are under us. And so I think this is a good opportunity for people that don't have project management experience, certainly in the IT world, to be able to learn. And then that way we can mold and shape, start people off at a fair rate, but eventually move up into making whatever we can build the business out to, being kind of a startup. Share my screen and we'll talk through a little bit. So that way you can see the infrastructure of how everything works here. Right now, we are working on this Bell Bonds app, and that's where I want to be able to get people on board to learn, not only learn our processes, but then also learning epics, user stories, themes. How do you break those down into software? Great thing about it is that, as I mentioned to you, is ChatGPT is awesome because it makes your job as a project manager 10 times easier. Every project that we're going to have is, of course, the 5 stages of the PMBOK is initiation, planning, executing, monitor, control, and closing. But every folder will have its respective documents that we need. We have a verbal agreement waiting on the sign a contract with this guy for this app where he's going to give us $10,000. As a project manager, my role is to not only monitor the budget, but also provide the budget for the client. So right here is the project proposal that we gave based on what he's wanting. You have to build the budget. You have to be able to build not only what roles, and that's what I'm saying is like ChatGPT is awesome because as long as you have the project scope, I'll pull up the ChatGPT messages here. I've pretty much queried everything under one, and I have ChatGPT 4 project manager. When you're starting to build out, and I'm working on another, you do want to be under budget, but you always want to be able to leave enough. And that's one thing. A lot of people get cold feet when you give them a number. When you're doing your budget analysis, normally you want to try to use a bottom up approach where I will go out on Upwork or whatever freelance website and I will go after and ask them, hey, what would be the estimated cost on this type of project? Otherwise, if you go from a high level and you use historical numbers, it may be skewed numbers that you don't have that's proper or that's not accurate. It's always important as a project manager when you're doing estimating. And I just actually bought this book here. I would recommend it because there's always something that you're going to learn. If this is Agile Estimating and Planning. How do you estimate? You use story points, you use dollar value, you use poker planning. Those are going to be things that you're going to learn in PMBOK, but mainly the one thing that you have to be aware when you go through PMP, it's not going to teach you the fundamentals of that this book might teach you or Scrum Master might teach you. It's things that they're going to want you to know. But fortunately for me, I've already done software development and I've done budget analysis in the military. It's going to come down to with you or with anybody that comes into an industry that you may not be familiar with. That's where just having your T's crossed and your I's dotted, you have everything in place. So that way there's no hiccups in your project and it goes smooth. But so ultimately, I got this from my business partner, but who ultimately is considered the project sponsor. And he's also CEO of his company. So when he came to me and we started talking business, and that's what I said, hey, you take care of the business front, the business case of what clients want or what they're asking for. And then I'm going to start building a project management office of different project managers to be able to take on projects as they come in. And that's where we're at right now. We're at I wouldn't even say we're at the forming stage of our company and we're trying to figure out who's the right fit. And that's why I want to bring on a lot of interns. One, you guys can get experience from this, something that you can go on your resume, but also though two, maybe somebody that can be able to go from an intern to an actual position as a freelance for the company, a 1099. So that's where we're looking at. So I'll pause right now. Any questions?
No, that's actually exactly what I was looking for. This is fantastic.
It's available for us. So all I did was I took his stuff and I said, write a project charter based on this app. And it spit out every single thing that we needed. So all your document artifacts are going to be very important because you want to make sure that you review these documents as time goes on, your resource management plan, your team charter. So this one's easy because it's a small mobile app and the only things that we have is I task the team that's in the Philippines and then I task the user story generated from what I was able to create with the app. And that's where I want to see if that's something that you may want to test with is generating user stories with the ChatGPT. I'll give you the cues and then allocated you a license on Smartsheet, and we'll go over that in a minute. But the Smartsheet is the actual project management tool. Now, there's plenty out there. There's Asana, ClickUp, Microsoft Projects. They're all the same to me. All you want is whatever the high level value of information. So that way, when you start the project, you have something for the client to look at a high level. So that way the client doesn't have to keep asking you a million questions. Hey, what's the status of the project? But one thing that I had to address to the developers, so the development team's out of India, but ultimately what it is that with the team in India, they're normally used to just getting a project and just using a waterfall or predictive model, which is not a good idea in the IT world for when it comes to software development because you get something done and the client doesn't like it. And that's where we're trying to avoid, of course, when it comes to iterations in Agile is we break down user stories based on what the features are in the application. As a user, I want this to do this and it will execute this. I think you can get value out of this is where how do you allocate? But then also though too, if there's things that you can foresee that you can have Dominic and his team do, then use them because then as a project manager,